I always do better the second time. So now we'll officially call the meeting to order right at 6 o'clock with a quorum. So we're off to a strong start, guys. This is fantastic. Before we get too far along, we have a new member who was officially approved today and appointed, Lucy Aldrich. So Lucy and I have met, and Cynthia, and so she knows who Cynthia and I are. But I thought we'd take a quick second just to introduce ourselves to Lucy. We'll let Lucy introduce herself first, and then we'll jump off into the minutes. So Lucy, if you just want to say a little bit about who you are and wave hello or whatever, and the floor is yours.
Hello, I'm Lucy Aldrich. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be appointed the day of the meeting. So I'm very new at all this, so it's nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you as well, Lucy.
Lucy, could you tell us what your interest in economic development is?
Well, I'm raising a family here. I plan to stick around here for a while. So I also have my own freelance business here in town. So I just like to help out the community, help out Mansfield.
I'm gonna call across my screen, and we can all introduce ourselves to Lindsay. So the first one on my screen, oh, we just shifted. Now it's all mixed up again. Brian, you're first on my screen, so if you just want to introduce yourself.
Hi, Lucy. My name is Brian Coleman. I'm on the town council. Been a Mansfield resident for quite some time. I'm also a local real estate agent. Welcome aboard.
Next, I have Tony.
I'm the town council and I'm mayor, and I know nothing about economic development, having been a political science professor and a politician for most of my life. But I've been in Mansfield since before most of you were born, and I hope the town prospers. I'm very invested, figuratively, in making Mansfield great.
Thanks, Tony. Next, I have Nancy.
Hi, I'm Nancy Mckenney. I own Hops 44, and that's my thing, and I'm here all the time, and so that's why I'm interested in economic development.
Thanks, Nancy. Jen?
I'm Jennifer Kaufman. I work in the Planning and Development Office, and I'm currently serving as Acting Director of Planning and Development.
Thanks, Jen. Josh?
I'm Josh. I have been the administrative assistant for the Downtown Partnership since March of this year. Also work in Columbia as a board clerk. I've lived in Mansfield since I was 1.5, and I'm interested in economic development because it's in my job description.
Thanks, Josh. Kristen?
Hi, I'm Kristen Delay. I'm also a newer member on the EDC. I have a small business as well. Unfortunately, it's not in Mansfield yet, but I'm interested in economic development because I'm also invested in this town, and I want to be a part of our community and help out in any way I can. So that's why I'm here as well.
Hi, Kristen.
Lane, I have you next. Oh, Lane, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Gotcha. Oh. We had you for a minute and we lost you.
And you can't hear me on the phone?
Oh, there you go. We got you.
Okay. Try one last time. Lane Watson, I'm an attorney. I work in Hartford, but I live in the Gurleyville part of Storrs.
Thank you, Lane. And then last but not least, Ryan, if you're there.
Hello, multitasking. I'm actually on an Eastern Highlands Health District board meeting that's wrapping up. So, and I'm making dinner. So let's see if I can avoid burning the house. But Ryan Aylesworth, town manager, father of 3. And I think actually we might both have a kid in Scouts now that I see your face.
Yes,
Maybe.
now you do
Okay.
look very familiar. Yeah, we were at the Scouts meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess I have 2 in Scouts, but welcome aboard.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you
Ryan,
all
what's for
very
dinner
much.
tonight?
And thank you especially to Lucy for joining. We're very excited to have you. So I don't want to speak for everyone else, but I know the first time I attended one of these meetings, it was like fast and quick and a lot went over my head and I was pretty quiet. So if you feel like that, you're in good company. And if not, jump in whenever you have something to say, because the more the merrier. So,
Okay. Thank you.
all right. So we'll move right on to approval of the minutes. So in our board pack, we had minutes from our last meeting. Brian, you want to bring up your clarification real quick?
Yeah, I'd like to make, recognize one change that needs to be made, item 5, B, where it says, standards on the 4 corners, it should state 398 units instead of 398 acres.
Perfect. So with that amendment, did anyone have any other corrections or additions for the minutes? All right, then I would take a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kristen. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. All right, any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, passed unanimously. Thank you very much.
Steve, can I just make a comment for Lucy's benefit? I
Yes,
am
please.
an ex officio member of this board, so I don't have a vote. I can talk, but I can't vote.
That's true. I shouldn't have voted on that approval of minutes, so don't count my vote. Tony's right.
Still passes.
Yeah.
Excellent. All
Brian,
right.
are you appointed to this board?
What's that?
No, you're not appointed either?
I'm ex officio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a a question on that. So can Brian make the motion if he's ex officio?
No.
Okay, so I think we have to redo the minutes. Sorry, everybody.
So we need another person to make the motion to approve the minutes.
I make the motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Nancy. Kristen, you want a second again?
Second.
All right, perfect. All see, this is good. It's like a practice run tonight. So all those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye, raise your hand. Awesome. All right. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. All right, there we go. And we're compliant. This is good. We'll get this by next time. We're going to be pros. So we'll move into reports. Do any members have anything to report since our last meeting? All right. Hearing none, we'll turn it over to Cynthia for our staff update.
Great, thanks, Steve. I just have a couple of things. First of all, I just wanted to mention the Taste of Mansfield Partners meeting was changed to the 23rd, and we're actually doing that virtually. I know Valessa was going to join us when we were going out to Spring Valley Farm. So we'll update you on that at our next meeting, but we may do a trip to the farm, I think, maybe in the fall or next year. Does that sound right, Jen? I think that's what we discussed. So stay tuned. We'll, if any of you want to join us, we're happy to have everybody. And then you should have in your packet, and hopefully you received it via MailChimp from Kathleen. And if you did not, please let me know. Lucy, you probably would not have, but we had our inaugural Business Digest. So this is our email newsletter that'll go out monthly. That's focused on business doings, different webinars that people can attend. It included information on the Arpa application, which Ryan and I can talk about later. But just, did everybody receive it in their email?
Cynthia, I don't think I did. I can't swear to it, but I don't remember it.
Okay. So let me double check. I think we have, we would have you down there under a number of spots, Tony, but I'll check with Kathleen. And then I wanted to recognize Nancy again for her awards, which you should have received the email. So we're so excited for Nancy being recognized. And I did want to, you also should have gotten this invite, which is to, I've kind of got dual roles right now. So my partnership hat on and my economic development hat to our social event for our downtown businesses, which is next Wednesday between 5:30 and 7:30 at Hops. And we did invite the EDC, the town council. I think we might have invited Planning and Zoning Commission as well. And then our downtown stores businesses, of course. So if you have not RSVP'd, if you could, because we need to be able to give Nancy a good count because she's generously providing food for us. So again, if you haven't RSVP'd, please let me know.
Cynthia, were the businesses at Four Corners invited?
No, this is a strategic plan, downtown store strategic plan initiative. So they were not.
Okay. Maybe we should do something in addition at some point.
Yep.
This will most likely grow. At our last meeting, we talked about expanding the list in the future. It's hopefully one of numerous networking events we'll do, but since this is our trial run and we weren't sure if we're going to get 3 people or 33 people, we wanted to try to keep it manageable first, but definitely in the longer term plan.
We have 22 yeses so far, so that's good. And I think that's all that I had.
Cynthia, of the 22, how many are businesses?
I would say most of them. There's a couple of our board members, yourself, Steve, Sean, Kyle, but the rest I think are all businesses.
Terrific.
So, and that working group, so that's a working group out of the partnership. So that's actually includes Brian and Steve, Kyle Muncy, Frank Gifford, and Mario Conjuro doing follow-up direct business calls. And, you know, Brian's been really great about making calls and updating me, as has everybody, but anyway, I appreciate that.
I have a couple follow-ups tomorrow, and I'll get the UPS stores manager's name. No one answers the phone there, so I have to visit in person. But I'm gonna check in with Kathmandu, cut to the chase, and I'll stop and get that name at the UPS store.
Great, thank you.
One of the girls' names, I think she's the manager, is Trish.
It's Trish. I knew it started with a T, Nancy, and that's what I told
Yeah.
Brian, and I knew I
Yes.
could not remember her first name.
Yeah.
All right, Trish. All right.
Yeah, it was just as background for you, Tony. The working group, we divided up all the businesses in the downtown, and we all called. We not only did we email them, we also followed up with phone calls just to try to make a little personal connection. So hopefully we can get everyone to come out and network and hopefully find ways to collaborate and revitalize. So yeah. Anyways, back to you, Cynthia.
Yep, no, I think that was it, unless there are any other questions.
All right. Next on the agenda is business updates. Any openings or closings anybody has to report? Pretty quiet since last meeting. Did we have Brooklyn Dumplings open for the last meeting? Yep. Okay. Great. And then we had in the downtown, Fresh Fork Cafe was recently recognized as the new business of the year by the Mantle Downtown Partnership, which is kind of an exciting thing. And then obviously Nancy had a ton of awesome press as a Foodie Friday place of the week. So that was really, really exciting. So congratulations again, Nancy. That was awesome. I watch that every week and I see that, and to see something at Four Corners was like fantastic. So
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. It was fun.
Yeah, very neat. All right, housing update. Cynthia provided the link to the town website, but maybe Jen, if there's anything you want to walk us through for housing update.
Sure. Let's see. I thought I would just share with you, just to make sure you all, I'm sure Linda has talked about this a lot, but we do have on the website, on the planning and development website, this it's a story map that kind of goes through all of the applications, including housing. So it's under development activity. It's pretty up to date, and right now we have someone who's proposing a mixed use transitional district that's in the will be applied to the Four Corners, and that's to transition from just a lower scale mixed use and adjacent to residential. And then of course the standard at Four Corners, they're hoping to break ground sometime this fall. We are going to be, one thing that is not on here because it has not been received yet, but there will be a wetlands license receipt on July 5th for the Toast at Four Corners. That parcel, it will be just they're keeping Toast at Four Corners, the gas station, Pizza Mike's, but they will be adding 102 residential units as well as some retail. So that will be coming in on July 5th just for wetlands. I'm sure you're familiar with many of the other ones, but feel free to access this. There's descriptions, links to the application materials, when the public hearing is going to be held, and we're going to try to be very, very diligent about keeping this up to date. So that's all I have, and I will stop sharing.
Jen, the one for Domino's, is that new there at the Four Corners?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yep. Sorry about that. Domino's is actually opening up a branch at the Four Corners, and they will be they're opening the public hearing on July 5th as well. And they're not going to be doing any exterior changes. They're just going to be, basically adding some parking, some signage, and then just putting an operation up there.
And did it say something about possibly having a drive-through there?
That they are applying for it's not a drive-through restaurant because that is not allowed in the PB3 district, but they will have a pickup window. So it will be similar to Dunkin' Donuts. It will be a retail food service use with a drive-through pickup window.
Cool. What's the difference, I guess?
Yeah, it's nuanced, I suppose. So the minute that they're not allowed to have seating or any picnic benches outside, then it would be defined as a restaurant. So right now it's just you're going there, you're picking up food, and they will have that pickup window. That's what they're proposing. Similar to Pizza Mike's, where there's no seating, but this will have a pickup window. That's what they're proposing. Yep. So
Brian?
Pizza Mike has a new location in Champlin, Connecticut. He's staying in stores, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's new locations right next to Kristen's business, so right down the street. Nancy, did you have something?
Where is Domino's proposing to go? Where the old gas station was?
no,
Yeah.
I can show you. It's right in right next to Dick's Automotive.
Oh, okay.
There's a vacant building. It used to be a bank. And yeah.
So
With
right here.
Subway's regional headquarters
Yes.
also, but that was also before your time, Nancy, here, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for the update. Anybody else have any questions as far as housing? Jennifer, is there any reason they're waiting till fall to start at the standard at Four Corners?
There's just a lot of things that they have to get sorted out. They have to begin with the demolition, and so I think the official groundbreaking is the fall, though.
Okay.
We've had a
Did
pre-development
they say
meeting.
how long they think construction will take?
I think it's going to be till 2025 is what I remember from our pre-development meeting.
Cool, great.
The only question I have about the housing is, where are all these people coming from? They're gonna be living in all these apartments. I haven't figured that out yet.
We'll see.
Yeah, we will see. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you very much. Did I see a hand? Did I miss somebody? No. All right. Excellent.
Oh, I did. I'm sorry. I did.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, Jennifer's still on the phone. So just to circle back on the development review subcommittee, I think that group was going to look at putting together a potential letter with respect to the mixed use transitional zone. So right now, the public hearing is scheduled for July 5th, and I think Jen thinks it'll probably be extended to the 18th, possibly longer. So, I mean, that's something I think that Steve and Lane were working on would potentially share with the full EDC, well, would share with the EDC if that moves forward. So I just wanted to make sure Jennifer was on the phone. She and I talked about it briefly.
Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Lane and I will definitely powwow at some point and get our thoughts together on that and send them in for public comment. We'll bring them to the committee first for review, but.
So your next meeting is at the end of July, though?
Yeah, it would be,
July 21st, I think.
Yeah, so the public hearing may be closed by then, just so it is opening on the 5th. I don't believe it's going to close on the 5th, but then it may close on the 18th. So if you do want to get comments, you will you have to do it prior to the close of the public hearing.
okay, we'll try to get something together and then maybe we'll just email it out to the group for review.
Good. Look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, EDC calendar, which was attached in our packet. Any changes we need to make to that, Cynthia, or is that just for our, so we don't forget?
Yeah, just, yeah, so I don't forget mostly, but yes, I don't think there was anything significant on there.
Great, excellent. So we'll move into discussion items for this evening's agenda. The first one being a discussion of co-working spaces. This is something that we've talked about for years in various different forms and iterations. And then something that came up again at the Mansfield Downtown Partnership meeting, annual meeting a week or two ago. So I'm going to turn it over to Cynthia because she was the one who did most of the legwork and kind of research on this one. So Cynthia, floor is yours.
Great, thanks, Steve, and I'll try to be brief. So as Steve mentioned, this has been discussed off and on for a couple of years. When I was working on promoting the opportunity zone, we had a couple of meetings with Uconn folks and definitely expressed some need and additional office space. In talking to Greg Lewis with the Connecticut Small Business Development Center, he also feels that there is a need. So I did a little bit of research last week. I spoke with Patrick McMahon in Windsor. Some of you may have seen the Windsor Works proposal that they are working with a woman, Anissa Teach, who is with her family runs Bromley Ventures. And so they have taken on the West Hartford co-working space and had a good conversation with her about what they're doing. So the initiative that Windsor is doing, the Bromley group would be basically running it. They would pay rent to Loomis Chafee, is where they're going to be doing this. And the town has put in some ARPA funds to support it. I asked Patrick about surveying the need because I feel like what we have right now is anecdotal. And certainly he said that was, he thought the right thing to do. And then in talking to Anissa, just a little bit of background in terms of what she told me, that you really need to look at this as not a real estate venture, but an economic development venture. And it's not build it and they will come. They really work with areas where there's already established things for people to do. For instance, if somebody's working there, they want to go out to lunch, they want to get a cup of coffee. It needs to be an already established community, walkable community generally. She also talked about parking. They were originally in West Hartford Center and they are in a place where the parking is a little more accessible for them. So she said parking needs to be a situation where you don't have to go back out. And I'm just saying this, feed the meter, because people want to be focused. They don't want to be worrying about, getting towed or something happening. She said most of their clientele is in their late 40s that are working remote, but they've also had somebody else in the household working remote. So this gives them an opportunity to kind of have their own space and also more interaction with peers. So you know, it's a membership-based model that Windsor would be doing and that West Hartford is doing. I have been to the Manchester co-working space before COVID. Connecticut Main Street Center had a tour there. It's very interesting. Manchester Community College, that's also MCC, used to have a stake there and they don't anymore, but there's still co-working space there. There's space in Wallingford as well. So my suggestion to the commission would be for me to do a little bit more research, perhaps either have a site visit with some EDC members to the West Hartford space, or have Anissa, you know, meet with the group. And then perhaps if we think this is something worth looking into, conduct some sort of survey to find out, you know, what the need is. So I'm just kind of throwing that out to the group to see if this is something that that you'd want me to continue to pursue.
Are people familiar with what co-working space is?
So I was going to ask Cynthia, can you describe like what you envision the use of the space? Because I've seen sort of a couple different models, like with you know, different therapists sharing offices versus, you know, a bigger room with kind of access to copier and internet and things like that for work, everyday work. What do you envision?
I think it would be the model, the everyday work model. So you have, just like you said, Kristen, so you have a copier. A lot of people have, even the one in Manchester had like a old-fashioned phone booth where you can make phone calls on your cell phone. They have a coffee area. They have some conference room areas. So the membership rate is based, you know, I think on how many hours you're there. Also whether you want to use conference space and, you know, tiered accordingly, I guess I would say. You know, and it's, I think, you know, with COVID, they probably suffered a little bit, but it sounds like it's coming back again. So.
And this, we're looking at this more as a private venture, not as like a town venture, right? This would be something where our role would be facilitating, introducing the idea to property owners in the local area, saying, hey, look, we think there's a need. This is potentially a business model you might want to consider for your space, especially with all the development at the Four Corners and the tech park right across the street. Or did you have a different, I guess, how does South Windsor, is there like a town angle to that, or is it all private?
Windsor, what they have done is they are taking some of their Arpa funds to the initial setup. Loomis Chafee is donating space, but the nonprofit that I mentioned that Anissa runs would be paying rent. And so you get, obviously their memberships would contribute to paying the rent. So you have to make it somewhat profitable, I guess, even though they are a nonprofit. But so yeah, I didn't envision the town taking on a role besides supporting it, potentially from, you know, economic development staff, helping in whatever way that is. To a lot of them, like the one in West Hartford, I mean, they do some webinars and they do different programs as well. And I can, I should have sent it to you all, but I can send you a link to their website so you all can take a look at it too.
Cynthia, we have no idea what's going to happen when the new school opens, but there will be 2 buildings that we will have to evaluate what happens to them, whether they're just torn down or renovated or sold or reused. That might be a possible place to house something like this. I have no idea whether it would work. I'm just commenting. It sounds very, you know, one of the things that I think of when I hear this is the collapse of WeWork, which is one of the biggest organizations, and I don't know why they collapsed. They said they overexpanded and overdid, but I'm not quite sure what happened. But it's beginning to sound like these don't function as regular profit-making centers, that they have to be supported in some way.
Yeah, and Anissa mentioned WeWork. I mean, I think that's where she tried to make the distinction. The way she sees this is as economic and community development, so supporting our small businesses versus a real estate venture. So I'm glad you brought that up, Tony, because she specifically made the distinction. So yeah, the schools, so there's sort of, I guess there's two things going on that, Linda and I've talked about, Ryan and I've talked about. There's sort of space for incubation of businesses. And then there's the co-working space, which is, people that are working remotely or want to collaborate. So there, I think there's a distinction that where the schools are would probably, if we take Anissa's advice at face value, they would not be great places, at least at this point, for already being in an established place where there's the coffee and the lunch and the dinner, that kind of thing.
Oh, right.
That doesn't mean that couldn't happen at some point, but not initially.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to answer any questions, or I guess get some feedback if you feel that, or if you would support me doing a little more research and seeing what this is all about.
I think it sounds like an interesting concept to do and to get more information about, because people, I talk to a lot of people, and the biggest thing is that there's no collaboration at work anymore because nobody's going to work anymore. So that's a big thing, but people that don't have that space as well, now we have a space to go to. But the thing that concerns me is the cost of it. And is that person going to turn around and pay that monthly cost or weekly cost or whatever it is? And is it going to be able to sustain itself?
Yeah, those are definitely key questions.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's real interesting right now, just from like a real estate perspective. Like, we have this whole movement away from being in an office to being able to work remotely. And then everybody wanted to be in their house because of COVID. They didn't want to go anywhere. I think people are finding that their houses are getting a little bit tight, and it might be nice to be able to have an office that's convenient to you. So maybe you don't want to drive all the way to Hartford. Maybe you just want to go to the Four Corners, or maybe you just want to go to downtown or wherever this ends up being located, because it's so much more convenient to all the other things in your daily life. And you're not really tied into it, too heavily. You're not signing like a 12 or 24 or 36 month lease. You're not outfitting an entire office with all the stuff you need. It's light, and I could see it being in our area fairly successful, especially with all the professors that we have in the area and grad students who want a quieter place to get away. I think it'd be an interesting thing. And I'd definitely be interested if, certainly for Cynthia, if you do any further research, you could. I'd love to go check out one of these things. So if you want to set something up, I definitely would go along with you. And then, did they give any suggestion as to how we could kind of do some type of market research or market study to determine how big the market would be?
Yeah, so, well, let me put it this way. They offered their services.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know how that goes. But there is a group that Patrick mentioned that worked on a survey, this similar thing in Meriden. So I have that information, so I could contact that group. Again, I'm sure they would charge to do that, but at least we can kind of figure out what the parameters were.
This idea, is it going to be fee-based?
It would be, they're all membership based for the most
Yeah.
part, from what I can
And what
tell.
sort of fee would we be charging?
So I think it depends, and I'll send you all the link to the West Hartford one, but it kind of depends on how much space you want, how often you're there, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so you could make this almost like a local business community center sort of thing, right?
Right, yes.
Yeah, it's a good concept. I like that. And I would like to go, site visits if you have any coming up.
Great.
I agree. I think it would be interesting to learn more about. I'm also interested in seeing what the different options are. I know in Coventry on Main Street, they have a shared space where people can rent out the rooms for business and things like that, or to study. I go back and forth about how much it would be frequented by Uconn students, only because there's a lot of spaces on campus. To be able to go to do group work, although I haven't been there in some time, so maybe I'm wrong, but it is nice to get off campus and not run into students and kind of be on your own. So I'm curious about that. I'm also curious about individuals that do need some type of quiet office that they don't have in their house because there's multiple people maybe working in their house or their kids, and how that would work. I'm curious about how many people in town would be interested in something like that.
I would assume that students would not use it, that there are plenty of spaces on campus. I think we really need to, if you're going to do this, it needs to be focused on people who are actually engaged in creating or a business or earning a living with it.
So Cynthia, does that give you enough direction and marching orders?
Yes.
Perfect. Any other thoughts for Cynthia on this topic? All right, thank you all very much. Next on our agenda is an update on the Arpa Local Business Relief Fund Program. I'll let Cynthia or Tony or Ryan, maybe Ryan.
I guess I'll briefly tee it up before Cynthia takes over, but we did get this program approved by the council. It's $370,000 to provide funding support, financial support to local businesses that have been impacted by the pandemic. We tried to make the application process, the form and the sort of eligibility criteria relatively easy enough to navigate, not overly onerous, given that these are modest amounts of money, hopefully enough to make a meaningful positive impact in those businesses that have been impacted, but at the same time, not, we're talking about awards that have, basically an upper ceiling of about $10,000. We expect a lot of awards will be in the $2,500 to $5,000 range. Basically the application window went live this when did it actually go live? What
A week
day was it?
ago today. Yep.
A week ago today. Yeah, I was saying a week ago today. Yeah, and it'll stay open until July 8th, right? That's the date we picked.
Yes. Yep.
Yep. So I guess I'll leave it to Cynthia to say what sort of the response has been thus far from the business community, because she's listed as the point of contact.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. So I think we've had actually just one question so far. We had about 5 businesses approach us when it was announced that this application was coming out. And so we directly sent it to that group. I just wanted to let you all know what our outreach was. So as I think you all know, Kathleen, our office has been updating our business list. So it was sent directly to Mansfield businesses that were on our list. A press release was done from the town. It was on the partnership's Facebook page. It's on the town website, on the partnership website and the partnership Facebook page. I think Margaret's got it out on the town, let's see, what did she tell me? Facebook page as well. She'll be doing an e-blast to the town's news list. And we will be doing some social posts over the next couple of weeks to remind people, probably, consistently over the next 2 weeks. So I think we did a pretty good outreach on letting people know about it. Well, hopefully the press release will get picked up, because I know it was sent to the Chronicle too.
The only other thing I might add is we've also met recently to start talking about putting together, there's not necessarily a particular name for it, but basically a review committee. So partnership staff will largely be responsible for reviewing the applications to make sure that basically all the submission requirements are there and that the entities are indeed eligible. There's nothing disqualifying, but there will be a small committee geared towards providing recommendations to me as town manager on what applications to fund.
Brian.
July 8th is only like 3 weeks away. I don't think that window of time is large enough. I mean, I looked at the application and it looks like the businesses have to compile a good deal of information. I would recommend a longer window of time, actually.
Cynthia, do we have any applications in yet?
We do not. My
And-
experience with things like this, if I go back to RFPs and RFQs, they all come in close to the deadline. So it's hard to tell, but I mean, I hear what you're saying, Brian, but that's been my experience. So we tried to give them a month, or we did give them a month, I should say.
It seems like, it just, is there any reason why we can't extend it another month?
Yeah, I take I'd like Ryan to be involved with that as well.
I guess we deemed that a month was a reasonable period of time, that 4 weeks, essentially 4+ weeks was a reasonable period of time. We certainly looked at the items that we were requesting businesses to furnish, and we basically made sure that of those things that we were asking them to provide, that there wouldn't be any particular things that would cause a bottleneck and prevent them from being able to get the application in on time. Certainly if we get towards the end of this and we receive feedback that, an extension is needed, I think that the program is intentionally designed in a way to be flexible and we can adapt. But I think going in, and also I guess I'd mention Cynthia certainly helped with a lot of research, looking into other communities that had done similar sorts of endeavors. And correct me if I'm wrong, Cynthia, but I think when you did that, you found that, a month was kind of the gold standard, if you will, for other programs like this.
Yeah, and I think, yes, and I think that a lot of the information they should already have, the letter of good standing from the state. I looked that up because that was one of the questions I think maybe Ryan had asked me, and I think that can be fairly quick turnaround.
Nancy?
I think a month is more than enough. Businesses like myself that have already applied for help, we have all this information. I guess my thought is, I mean, maybe it was just my confusion the way that I read it, but I thought that we needed to apply on July 8th.
Okay.
So that's like, I handed it to Tyler tonight and I said, you need to take care of this. And he was like, okay, so I need to do it on July 8th. Not that it was open until that it was open right now, because we've been in similar situations like with the Restaurant Relief Fund or the PPP or things like that. And it was a specific date that they gave you the time to gather stuff and then you submitted it on that day. So maybe there's some confusion as why nobody has applied yet, because that's certainly why I haven't.
My guess is we're gonna be extending this program past July 8th. Just to guess.
It's very easy to get. It's very easy to get the good standing. I mean, it's right online. The IRS good stand, the tax good standing. Very easy.
Any other questions on the program or comments?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just wanted to go back to the application. So it said all application materials must be received by July 8th. So the way we wrote that meant until July 8th to do it. Oh, you're muted, Nancy.
I'm trying. That's just the way that I read it, because I read it quickly.
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe other people read it quickly as well. That I'm just telling you that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. No, I understand.
No, my assumption is as well is that you're going to get them all right before the deadline, because that's how we all work, right? You're just whatever you can do in that time frame, and that's it. But I agree. I think you should close it after a month. If there's not a lot of applications, you can open a second round.
Right.
Great. Excellent.
Steve, I just wanted to take a moment to make sure to thank Cynthia for her efforts with this. She has a lot on her plate managing the partnership on a daily basis, and obviously the partnership provides economic development support to the town. And just want to, say that we don't take her help for granted, and the help that her staff provides, and looking forward to this being a successful endeavor.
She is certainly invaluable. Cynthia, thank you for all of your help on this. So.
Thank you.
All right. Next on our list is subcommittee updates. I don't know how much we have to update. I know our business outreach subcommittee, we circulated our list of businesses, and then people have been replying back to me with the businesses that they're familiar with, so we can start setting up visits. And I haven't gotten back to anybody yet with dates or times. So the roadblock on this one yet again is me. Cynthia, for the good of the order, Anthony replied to me that he would join business outreach, so you can add him to the roster for that one. Lucy, sorry, before we go any further, we have 3 subcommittees: business outreach, governance, and project review and comment. Is that what it is, Cynthia?
I'm sorry, I was writing something down. Sorry.
Sorry,
Steve.
what's the third subcommittee is business outreach, governance,
Governance and development review support.
and
Or
development
development review.
Isn't it
Again, Josh?
development project review last time I looked? But
There
it
we
does
go.
change every week, so I'm not sure anymore.
Gotta keep everybody on
That's
their
a
toes.
dig on me, just so you all know.
So we're not going to put you on the spot tonight, Lucy, for picking one of these 3 to be on, but at some point we'll ask you which one of these you'd like to join. Business outreach, we have not started yet, but the plan is to start visiting businesses just to get a sense for what's going on in the business community. It's something that I've done more talking than doing on, because we've talked about doing this for a number of months. We just haven't got started yet, but we're almost there. That's one of the many things that it's going to do. The other thing we're planning on doing is providing social media type marketing materials to our town communication office to promote local businesses. So that's what that subcommittee is kind of geared towards. Governance is geared towards fully staffing the EDC, so finding additional members and editing bylaws as necessary. And project development review is geared towards looking at new projects that are coming online or new ordinances. So for instance, all this new multifamily housing that's proposed, or this new transitional zone that's proposed, and then commenting as to how the EDC sees it as a fit for our town. Does it fit with the values or the key metrics that we have identified as important for economic development in Mansfield? So you certainly don't need to decide tonight unless one of those jumps off the page at you and you're like, yes, I want that one. There's no limits. We don't say we cap it at any number of members. So feel free to just kind of feel it out. Unless you've made up mind, just let Cynthia or I know and we'll add you to the list. So
Okay, thank you.
sure.
Yeah, I'll mull it over.
Perfect. Did anyone, I don't know that any of our subcommittees have met, but if anybody has anything that they want to add under subcommittee updates, now would be a good time for that. All right, we'll keep it rolling. Town Uconn collaboration update. Tony, would you like to take that one?
I think I'd like to ask Ryan, because there have been some subcommittee meetings. We haven't met in a while because we've asked, no, we're not. I'm thinking 2 committees. There's a town and university relations committee which met last week and reviewed Uconn's development plans, our development plans, generally went over a whole range of issues that have to do with the town's changes and with universities' changes. Basically, they are talking about doing a lot of building, and not in the immediate future, but they are certainly working toward new dormitories, major revisions to existing dormitories, and of course they are proceeding to plan to tear down Mansfield apartments on the corner of 195 and South Eagleville. Our relationship with the university continues to be cordial. The other thing that Ryan has been negotiating is a renewal of the sewer agreement, which he may want to talk about it. Our current agreement expires on the 30th of this month. The hope is that there will be an agreement that will carry us through several upcoming years. So far, the university has committed itself to allowing us to continue to have the 400,000 gallon per day use of the sewer system we are currently using a little over 100,000. So it does allow, what it says is even development that's outside of downtown or that would go directly into Uconn's pipes, if it falls within the 400,000 or close to it, would be permitted, that they would not interfere as long as we stayed within that number, which is way above where we are now. So we're thinking that this is pretty positive. Again, it's not part of the town university relationship meeting, but it is part of the relationships that have been ongoing. We are also talking about the potential for establishing a polling place on Uconn campus to encourage students to vote. That's running into some pretty stiff headwaters, but we are continuing to talk about it. And other than that, Ryan has been working with the university on the framework for development. We have been successful in recent months in getting the university to bring the right people to the table, people who really do know about faculty engagement in economic development, and so we're hopeful that as we proceed that may bear some fruit, but it's still too early to tell on that one. The good news is they have not interfered, and continue to refrain from interfering with housing development off campus.
Tony, do you know if there's going to be any increased cost in the handling of our sewer? As part of the agreement, are we discussing any financials in that?
Well, I have to ask Ryan, but ask Ryan. I don't want to answer that one. Ryan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. It would be a little preliminary to get into, I guess, the rate discussion. Suffice it to say, Uconn hasn't changed their rates in quite a few years, and so they are looking to increase those rates, and by virtue of that, there will be cost sort of commensurate, I guess you would say, with that'll be passed on by necessity to Mansfield customers. So basically, after many years of stable rates, there's some catch up to be done. But otherwise, I think the way the mayor sort of summarized the negotiations is pretty spot on. It has been to this point a productive negotiation. We've reached a tentative agreement on most substantive matters, and as the mayor said, I think right now anyway, probably the most significant substantive change on the horizon is Uconn. Under the past agreements, they had sole discretion, sole authority to approve or deny any direct connection to pipes that they own, and there then were several proposed developments that would have directly connected to their pipes, and because they weren't particularly interested in seeing off-campus housing take place, they had the ability basically to kill the project by not granting the sewer connection request. And we've negotiated in this round that they basically, as the mayor said, as long as the projected additional volume of flow with the capacity that it would take up is within our allotted daily capacity as a town, that bottom line number, the only sort of means in which Uconn would have the ability to deny a connection would be if the applicant refused to basically adhere to the industry standard, the engineering specifications required to make that physical connection. We're not expecting that to be an issue. So this is, has the potential to really be a game changer for economic development, for housing development within the sewer network.
One last question for you, Ryan. They're allowing us up to 400,000 gallons a day, right?
Correct.
Is there any way in the contract language where, say you had that $400,000 where the university could come up and say, no, we won't want 400,000 anymore, we're only going to do 200,000? Is that something that's even possible? Just checking.
Not within the time frame. We're talking about a 5-year extension at this point. So there's nothing within that 5-year window that Uconn could do to reduce our capacity within that time frame. The other thing that's worth noting, although we're not expecting it to come into play in the next 5 years. But Uconn is also amenable to language such that if for whatever reason, if they have a need to increase capacity to service, their customers, so to speak. And right now they were very clear, they do not anticipate, at least within the next 5 years, any reason or need to do that. But if they did, and it's a 2 million gallon per day daily capacity, the plant is. So basically, if Uconn tried or wanted to increase the capacity with some upfits to say 2.5 million or 3 million, on a proportionate basis, 18% of that capacity, if the town wanted it, would be available for us to purchase. So we could essentially increase our capacity from 400,000 gallons to a larger amount if we thought it was in our best interest to do so. We would just have to pay, logically enough, that prorated percentage of the capital costs associated with the plant upgrade. So basically, long story short, if Uconn wants to increase the size of its plant, we don't have to ask for more capacity. But if we wanted to, there would be an opportunity to do that. And that sort of option, if you will, is negotiated or has been negotiated into the language of the agreement.
The important thing here, nobody who hasn't followed this from the beginning is going to understand the difference between charges and to which pipe goes where. But the important thing is that we're getting much better collaboration with the university on this. And I think it is reasonable to say that there are going to be some expenses that the university incurs in the future. And some of them may be not around sanitary sewage, which goes out, comes out of toilets and kitchens and stuff, but around wastewater and stormwater. And that is a separate system, but it has created the increase in storms has really, and the volume of water that's coming out of the sky and has to be disposed of may be causing some real problems for the future. But that's a separate issue from the sanitary sewers. And I think, the town has faced new federal regulations for stormwater and has really had to update some of its drainage, roadside drainage in order to accommodate that. But so I think people should not be surprised if this is if there's a demand for better water pollution control in the future. We'll just have to deal with it as it comes.
One other question.
And Brian, this hasn't come to the council yet, so this may not be the appropriate place to have this discussion.
I just was going to ask if it's a simple question that maybe either you or Ryan knows. Did Uconn start a wastewater recycling program? They were talking about it years ago.
Yes.
And does that cut into the actual amount of sewer flow that goes into the plant? No. Okay. Was that hard to answer? That wasn't too hard to answer, was it?
No, but I don't think the members of this committee understand what we're talking about, frankly. It's not, they don't need to either.
Well, it's very encouraging that it sounds like they're open to opening up their pipes, which basically would make that King Hill Road project more viable than it's been, which is something that's been very, very important to economic development for our town for a very long time. So that would be a very exciting project to see move forward. So, all right, excellent. Thank you very much for that. Kind of along the lines of this, although kind of maybe I should have put it under member updates. We had the Mantle Downtown Partnership annual meeting last week, Cynthia, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. It was within the last couple of weeks.
So I think, yeah.
And it was great. And while we were there, we got tours of the Innovation Partnership building. And so I started asking people that I met on the tour, hey, what could we as a town do to help support the Innovation Partnership building in your efforts? Is there anything that when you're meeting with companies and trying to get them to sign leases in here, they'd say, oh, I would locate here if Mantle had this or that or the other thing? Or what are we missing as a town that would make this property function better that you guys can't pull off yourself? And one thing that, or one thing that came up from 2 or 3 different people was catering or delivery food services, which I thought was really interesting. Like when they're having a meeting and they want to bring like coffee and donuts in, that's like an issue for them, which I know they have Uconn catering. So I was just kind of surprised that 2 or 3 people brought it up. I know we have a lot of food service places in our town, and I don't know if there's an angle where we can work out some type of deal where, you know, just letting them know, hey, if you are willing to do delivery to the Innovation Partnership Building, they have all these conferences and events and meetings and stuff. Maybe there's a way to establish some connections. Maybe not. I don't know. But
I don't know whether this is still true, but it used to be, and I think it still is, that the deal with Uconn Food Service is they have 100% control over all food service on campus, and you can't bring in and out. It's not that the outside caterers are not available; it's that they're not permitted.
Oh, okay. Well, that could be why they're having a hard time getting them in.
Yeah,
That's how I remember it. Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to mention, I staffed the Downtown Partnership orientation booth last week. I think it was last week. And 2 different sets of parents that came up asked if we had a hotel, which I know has been something that was proposed back when we built the downtown. And I told them about the one on campus, which is kind of the only option on here. I guess there's the one down on 185 by the mall as well. But, you know, Parents Weekend, that both of those are booked solid. So I was kind of interesting that there was 2 different people. I was only there for an hour, 45 minutes or whatever it was, and 2 different people were asking about it. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
it's curious. We had assumed after planning and zoning killed the hotel in downtown, we had assumed that there would be interest in building one at Four Corners. And there has not been such a proposal. It's been kind of disappointing because we really, really wanted that to happen. So if anybody has any in with any hotels who would be interested in coming to Mansfield, call them up.
Maybe there'll be more desire once we get the standard at Four Corners, once you get some development around there and it starts to look a little bit nicer. Maybe we'll see something, but all right, so anything else for Uconn collaboration update? Any questions? We're gonna keep moving because we're getting late. Next on the agenda is promotion of arts in Mansfield, which is something Brian brought up, and Brian and I were gonna meet together to discuss, and we haven't figured out a time. But we're gonna figure out a time, Brian. So maybe after the meeting, we can email and pick a date next week or something.
Oh, absolutely. We have to do it.
Perfect.
Maybe we can recruit a couple of artists to actually help us do it. You know,
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
I know a couple around. Maybe, you know, we can recruit them.
Okay. And then Cindy, did you have anything on this one?
Yeah, so we met, Denise in our office, our event coordinator, and I met with Adine Anthony, who's now the acting provost, and then Elaine Frogley, who is in the School of Fine Arts. He's now acting dean. So we had a really good conversation with them about our continued partnership with the School of Fine Arts. We talked about some of the things that we can do with some student classes and faculty in some of our buildings downtown, especially the ones that are available for space right now, so we can keep making things look good, and perhaps have the student art showcase there. I know that's something that Sean Vasington on our board is interested in doing. So Denise has put together a draft overview of arts in general in terms of what we can do downtown, and I still need to review it, which hopefully I can do tomorrow or next week. So we want to go back to the School of Fine Arts team for their piece, but also look at this comprehensively. So, Steve and Brian, anything that you all do, we'd be happy to share what we have, and if you can share back with us.
Yeah.
I know one of the things we wanted to find out, what do the artists need? What if we did do the Square Fair, as Tony mentioned, I think a couple of meetings ago, what worked when we did that, and what didn't work that we might want to do differently to bring in artists.
Perfect. Oh, great. Excellent. I think that's pretty much the last of the discussion items we had. Next, we had communications, which a lot of it was the wonderful PR we got for Hops 44 and Nancy's awards, which is, again, congratulations. Our next meeting is scheduled for July 21st. If there's anything anyone would like to add to that agenda, either let us know now or email Cynthia between now and then. And I think that's it, unless anyone else has anything else for the good of the order.
I just have one
Kristen.
thing. I forgot. I don't know if anyone knows that. I think Dr. Salustri sold his business to another chiropractor on 195. I had heard that, and I just checked the website, and I do think that's true. And then Fashion Nails in the Big Y, and I'm sorry I'm late with this. Fashion Nails also technically moved, I think, next door and expanded in the Big Y Plaza.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yep. Sorry that I'm behind. But
I told you, we're doing the meeting twice, and then we get it right the second time around, so.
does that mean you're doing the full agenda again, Steve?
Yeah, we're gonna start again in 5 minutes, so everybody. Anybody else have anything before we adjourn? All right, then I take a motion to adjourn. Nancy, is there a second? Kristen, all right, thank you all very much. You can wave goodbye as your affirmative vote, and thank you, and we'll see you again next month.
Cynthia,
Thanks.
I didn't get RSVP, I don't think.
For Nancy, the event at Nancy's,
Yeah, June 22nd. I will be there.
I have you